Is it just that Hindi is the only villain here? Historically, also the imposition of Hindi was not actually looked upon very kindly back in the Madras province. The starting point of agitation in East Pakistan was language. If numbers are the benchmark to decide a language to be national, then dog, the national animal, when a language dies, along with that a culture dies, a way of living dies. At the same time, just because I have learned these languages, have I forgot my mother tongue? Hello everyone, hope you're all doing great today. Now you all will be wondering to a certain extent what is the whole controversy surrounding the three language formula and why is it that there is so much of conflict with regard to this one particular topic. And these language wars or trouble what we have, has it just started today or does it have a historical connection? Well, all this and much more we'll be seeing it in today's video. But before that, this is my official Telegram channel. Any doubts or queries that you have, you can ask it over here. In addition to this, if you want to send the previous year answers of public administration optional or GS 1, 2, 3, 4 essays, you can send it over here. I will review the same and send my feedback. From 2013, mind you, only send the PYQs. Now today what will we be discussing? We'll be basically looking at three major things. Number one, the timeline of events. Number two, Bengal case study. Number three, where is the road? These are the three things. I am going to, or rather, I have broken up this entire conflict in a timeline manner so that it becomes easier for you to understand what are the origins of it, of this particular language conflict, and how has it evolved. Is it just that Hindi is the only villain here, or are there other villains which we don't know about? Let us look into all of this in today's video. So let us look at the timeline. Pre-1937, a backdrop of emerging linguistic and regional consciousness in India. Obviously, just before 1937, slowly, provincial governments were being formed in different parts of the country when the Britishers were ruling. So at this point of time, the regional consciousness was slowly emerging. 1937, the C. Rajagopalachari, Rajaji, government in Madras proposes making Hindi a compulsory subject in secondary schools. The Justice Party and other groups fiercely opposed this move, leading to significant anti-Hindi agitations. So this is what we need to understand. Historically, also the imposition of Hindi was not actually looked upon very kindly back in the Madras province. Now, when I say the Madras province, you must understand that it is not just the present day Tamil Nadu. It had parts of Kerala, few parts of Andhra, Karnataka, etc. back in the good old days before the linguistic divisions took place. All right. Tragically, some protesters lose their lives, becoming symbols of the anti-Hindi movement. So those protesters who died protecting their mother tongue, they still have a heroic image in the respective states. Constituent Assembly period, late 1940s, heated debates occur regarding the status of Hindi as a national or official language. That should it be given a national language status or should it be given an official language status? Divisions arise between Hindi speaking and non-Hindi speaking regions over this one particular issue, that should Hindi be given a national status. Now this is where the main contention lies even today. Unfortunately, celebrities, politicians even today blatantly and bluntly keep telling, even including common man keeps telling that, oh, Hindi, it is the national language of the country. Many people even today, they are not aware that Hindi is only the official language of the country. It is as much as an official language just as Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, or any other language out there. It has the same status. One of the contention at that point of time again to bring Hindi was the thought that let us unite the entire country with one single language. But here again, one must look into our neighborhood. The starting point of agitation in East Pakistan was language. East Pakistan spoke predominantly Bengali. But because West Pakistan had made Urdu the national language, the Urdu speaking minority in East Pakistan got access to the best schools, best colleges, and even government jobs. The majority speaking Bengali population was left wanting for resources. From that point onwards, the whole movement started towards independence and ultimately culminated in the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971. If we travel further south of our country, there is another country again with the same example, and that is Sri Lanka. The whole issue between the Tamils and the Sinhalese population there started off again for one major reason, and that was language. Sinhalese was made the language of the country. The Tamil speaking population found it very difficult. They were harassed over their language, they were ridiculed over their language, they were ridiculed over their culture. Because one must understand here, language is closely associated with culture. And the moment you give too much preference to one particular language, you are neglecting the other language, plus you're neglecting the culture there. Keep this point in your mind for now, because how the language can deny another culture their true presence or their true value, we will be seeing it in a while. So, the whole idea that Hindi should be made the national language was very contentious, was very conflict prone, and ultimately, what happened? Let us see. Discussions include the use of English, Sanskrit, and Hindustani. Debates over the Devanagari script and numerals versus other options like Roman script, international numerals, etc. took place. Compromise was finally reached. Hindi is designated as the official language of the Union under Article 343, and English will continue for 15 years. The 8th schedule is created, initially listing 14 languages having the status of official language. 1959, Jawaharlal Nehru gives an assurance that English will continue in official use and as the language of communication between the center and states. 1963, the Official Language Act of 1963 is passed, anticipating the end of the 15-year period. The act provides for the continuing use of English. That is the point here. That means Official Language Act again made it very clear that English also can be used as a medium of communication between the center and the states. 1965, as the deadline for adopting Hindi as the sole official language of India approaches, widespread and violent protests erupt in Tamil Nadu. These protests result in deaths from police shootings and self-immolations, highlighting the intensity of the opposition. Now, people who are unaware of this, they may feel it, why this emotional outburst? Why so much of emotions? After all, it is just a language. Why can't you just learn it? Again, the point here is, when you impose a language that you're forced to learn it, people will not accept it. Because there is a reason why you call it the mother tongue. It is the first language that you learn to speak. Even before learning the rules of grammar, or even before you know the meaning of all the words or its exact enunciation, pronunciation, you learn a language. And that's the mother tongue. The language that you learn to communicate so easily. So to tell that the other language is important, that only you have to study, not everybody will take it up. Plus, historically speaking, before itself, during the pre-independence era itself, we know how the anti-Hindi agitations had led to the loss of life. So this whole thing that, okay, Hindi is being imposed on us was not at all looked kindly by the people staying in the state of Tamil Nadu. 1967, the Parliament of India adopts the Official Language Amendment Act of 1967, which permits the continued use of English alongside Hindi for official communication, deferring the sole official language status of Hindi. So basically, that is what happened. Hindi actually was kept aside. It's not kept aside. That is, it will not alone have the official language status. It will be given to the English language also. Early 1968, Parliament adopts the Official Language Resolution 1968, which mandates the implementation of three-language formula across all states. This resolution triggers widespread student protest in Madras. Why? Because even in this three-language formula, Hindi was made compulsory. Compulsory. That is the idea you have to understand here. Wherever you make anything compulsory or you impose it from top down, opposition to it can increase. Needless to say, the CN Annadurai-led DMK government in Madras closes educational institutions due to the escalating protests. On January 26, 1968, the Madras Assembly passes a resolution rejecting the three-language formula. The resolution argues against regional domination through a single official language. So that is what they are viewing it as. This is regional domination. Because obviously when you are bringing in one language there, what happens is the indigenous language of that region loses its sheen. Don't believe me? Look at Mumbai. Mumbai is in Maharashtra. But can all of us say that Marathi is spoken very widely in Mumbai? No. Marathi speakers, if you actually see, are a minority there. It is not just isolated to Mumbai. Even when you travel to parts of Chandigarh, even when you move to the urban areas in Punjab, you will find that Hindi is widely spoken there rather than Punjabi. In fact, many urban elite class inside Punjab don't prefer to speak Punjabi even though they know the language. They either prefer Hindi or English because they feel Punjabi is not classy enough. We are rich. I am not saying this. Mind you, it's based on an article that appeared in the Hindu newspaper. You're free to Google it. You can read it. Now, is it isolated to Punjab? Again, no. You find this elite tendency of sticking only to the English language in many states. From the state of Kerala, if you see people who know the language, Malayalam, they often don't speak it. Again, the urban elite class, they prefer English because they feel that's more classy. That is a sign of education. That's a sign of intellect. Because of all these stereotypes and prejudices, what ends up happening is a culture slowly gets diminished. Getting the point here? Taking it further forward, the resolution argues against regional domination through a single official language. It calls for the continued use of English as an official language until all languages are given equal status. That was the demand of the Tamil Nadu government under Annadurai. That is, give all the languages equal status. It is not that Hindi will dominate other languages. Give it equal status everywhere. This was also the time period when, rather famously or infamously, a debate occurred where one of the contention was Hindi spoken by a larger number of people, so it should be made a national language. Makes sense at least to a few people. Counter argument to it was, well, if numbers are the benchmark to decide a language to be national, then by that same merit, let us make dog the national animal, the crow the national bird. You can Google this debate which occurred years ago. Getting the point here. So you must understand this was very heated, very emotional. Tempers were running high, voices were going up high. All of them are at the boiling point or tipping point. It calls for the scrapping of the three-language formula and the teaching of only Tamil and English. It condemns the three-language formula as a veiled attempt to impose Hindi. Deputy Prime Minister Morarji Desai expresses concern and hints at potential union government intervention. Why? Because the protests were running so high that the central government started to fear is a new freedom movement being started, is starting in the Tamil Nadu region. Are they trying to detach themselves from the union? Annadurai rejects accusation of reviving secessionist movements, blaming the centre's language policy. Annadurai argues that national unity requires mutual sacrifice from all regions. Annadurai argues that the concept of a single linked language is a construct of the Congress party. Puts the blame, now takes the direct attack politically. That this is your making. You are responsible for it. Interestingly enough, due to this one single issue, Congress has never won a single election in the state of Tamil Nadu. Getting the point here. So it's a big bone of contention. No government in their rightful mind will ever try to impose Hindi on any state because they know what is the result. They clearly know what is the result. Obviously, you cannot write this political point in your answer paper. But the fact of the matter here is very clear that anybody who tries to impose it, politically, it will be a blunder. You may not win the next elections at all. Annadurai states that the official language problem was created by the Indian government. Annadurai states a support for the sovereignty of India and his desire for equality. So, the Annadurai government made it very clear. We have no intention to secede from India. These are all your thoughts. We want equal treatment. Not that one language will have the upper hand over the other. Nothing doing. All languages give it the same official status. This was the contention. Post 1968, Tamil Nadu consistently adheres to its two-language policy, teaching only Tamil and English in schools. And that is how things have been moving on. In 2019, the Kasturirangan Committee's draft national education policy, which includes a mandatory Hindi learning clause, sparking widespread backlash. The mandatory Hindi learning clause is subsequently removed from the draft NEP. The union budget allocates funding to hire Hindi teachers in non-Hindi speaking states. So this was the biggest bone of contention. That is, in the new education policy, they kept a mandatory Hindi learning clause, which was later removed. They had even kept separate funds also. That is, if Hindi is being taught in non-Hindi speaking states, to hire Hindi teachers, separate funding. Then 2020, the National Education Policy 2020 is introduced, retaining the three-language formula with some flexibility. So what the Kasturirangan panel suggested, from that, some changes were made to the three-language formula. Like, the policy document says that the languages in the three-language policy will be based on the choices of states, regions, and of the student provided. Two of the three languages are native to India. Means, out of the three languages that will be taught in schools, two should be native to India. That is the only condition. The other one, even if you're teaching, so if you're planning to teach French, let us say, the other two should be what? From India. Native to India. The three languages learned by children will be the choices of states, regions, and of course the students themselves, so long as at least two of the three languages are native to India. It's said that is the full document code. Mind you, there is no word about Hindi imposition. That means, can the state of Tamil Nadu choose three languages which has got nothing to do with Hindi? Yes. So, for example, well, they can choose Tamil, English, Malayalam, or Tamil, Telugu, English, Tamil, Kannada, English, anything is possible. It is left to them. It's their choice. Present scenario, The union government withholds 2,152 crore in Samagra Shiksha funds from Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu opposes the mandatory implementation of the NEP 2020, particularly the three-language formula. Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan insists on constitutional alignment and the implementation of the three-language policy. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin accuses the government of Hindi imposition and vows to protect the state's two-language policy. The dispute continues with calls for constructive dialogue and compromise between the union and state governments. The interesting scenario is that 2026 Tamil Nadu will go to elections again. And again, because of that one reason, emotions are being stoked just so that everybody looks suddenly that they are there to protect the Tamil culture. In fact, it is clear as daylight that new education policy, by no stretch of imagination, tries to impose Hindi. All right, this is one aspect. What constitutes as threat to languages? Let us see that now. Endangered languages. Koro in Arunachal Pradesh, spoken by a few hundred people. Steimer in Tripura, less than 2,000 speakers. Great Andaman Islands, only a handful of elderly speakers remain. Majhi, Himachal Pradesh, fewer than 2,000 speakers. Mundari, Eastern India. Nicobaris, Nicobar Islands. These are examples of languages which are highly endangered. But let us now talk about a language which has totally become extinct from the state of Tamil Nadu, and that is Arabic, Arabic Tamil. It is no more used. Why? Who was the villain here? Was it Hindi? It is an unlikely answer. The villain was actually Tamil. I know it may sound surprising, but that is the beauty as well as danger of having a state language. So official language in Tamil Nadu, no doubt about it, it is Tamil. Spoken by majority of the people there, plus what the oldest language on planet Earth. Very significant historically. Evidences of Tamil being the oldest language is available in Sangam literature. All these are available data. But the problem here is the variants, other variants are there in any region. Now we must understand India has particularly vulnerable tribal groups almost in every state, and they may not be speaking, or they will not at all be aware of what is the official language or what is the majority spoken language. They will not be aware of it. They have their own languages. But when you have a single language being spoken in the state largely, the people who don't know this language have no other choice other than learning it. And when everybody speaks only one language largely, talk about literature works, talk about visual media, talk about social media, any media you talk about, everything will be based out of that one language. You have Tamil movies. Correct? Tamil movies are there which gets released every year or every month, every week. But have you heard of a movie in the Arabic language? No. Evolved through the interaction of Tamil and Arabic speakers which originated in the 8th century is now considered endangered. Can be seen on the tombstones in places like Jummapali Masjid in Kilakarai and Pulikat Lake. Between 1961 and 1971, the recognized mother tongues in India decreased from 1652 to 109. Means many languages are dying or are already dead because there are no more native speakers of that particular language. Plus, on top of it, there are no literary works to keep the language alive. An estimated 220 languages have been lost in India. The PLSI documented 780 languages and 68 scripts, but estimates 100 languages may be undocumented. People's Linguistic Survey of India. That is, over 100 languages are undocumented. There is no way of even documenting it. Like, who are the speakers? Where do they speak it? What are the literary works associated with it? No way of knowing. Endangered language communities, languages spoken by remote communities in the northeast and Andaman Islands are most vulnerable. The Rai Rogdang language in Sikkim has only around 200 speakers. The Tangsa community in Arunachal Pradesh has approximately 100,000 people divided into 40 subtribes facing dialect preservation challenges. Lesser students are preferring a career in literature or linguistics. That is the other reason. We are all moving towards a materialistic world where we prefer faster money, quick financial success, and that comes from the service sector. How many of us are actually pursuing a career in literature? Or how many of us are actually capable of writing a 300-word essay in our mother tongue in 1 hour? There are very few people who are capable of doing it. In fact, what we really see is there is an increased preference within the native speakers to communicate in English as well as to read and write in English. It is not a new thing. If you actually look at the regional authors that are coming up today, even all of them are using the English language. They are using the English language to reach to a wider world audience. In fact, the English language is being used extensively even by the regional content makers of social media. The demands of service sector industry has created the necessity to be fluent in Hindi and English. Definitely. Because even while hiring, there is a column. They look at the resume and they literally want to see how many languages the particular candidate is well versed in. In fact, more you are well versed, if you are well versed in more than one language, higher is the chance of getting recruited. Now, I talked about Tamil, how Tamil language has led to the death of Arvi Tamil. So, is this something which is only there in Tamil Nadu? Is Tamil the only language which has led to the death of Arvi Tamil? Do we have other examples like this? We have plenty. Let us go to the eastern side. Indigenous local languages in West Bengal are threatened by Bengali, not by Hindi. While Santali is a scheduled language, many other tribal languages in West Bengal are critically endangered. Toto, Lodha, and Birhor are identified as 3 critically endangered languages and they belong to particularly vulnerable tribal groups. India has 75 officially recognized PVTGs. Numerous other groups have critically endangered languages. Getting the point here, that means if you go to the state of Kerala, Malayalam, or if you go to Gujarat, Gujarati, Odia, Marathi, Kannada. Like this, if you keep traveling wherever there is an official language which is largely spoken by the population of a state, good for the majority people, bad for the minority people, because their language will slowly die. Every communication, every calendar, every newspaper, when it is in the majority language, the minority language is not going to get any importance. It will slowly die with the last person who is well versed in it. That will be the end. Artificial intelligence can be used to rejuvenate the language, protect the language, translate the works. We can do that. But until and unless there are no more there are speakers of the language. If there are speakers who use it, who are able to read and write in it, all these will just become very cosmetic in nature. So, within a state, the minority languages are getting into endangered status. What will happen if we impose Hindi? Or like how some celebrities who are not using their knowledge properly, when they say Hindi is the national language, let us take for the sake of argument, let us say Hindi becomes the national language. What will happen? Many of the state languages which are there today, they will die. They will enter into this endangered status. Getting the point here? It is as simple as that. When a language dies, along with that, a culture dies, a way of living dies. Getting the picture? 1961 census impact. The 1961 census decision to exclude languages spoken by less than 10,000 people contributed to language extinction. This decision is considered a violation of linguistic human rights. Factors contributing to language decline. Bengali hegemony. Bengali exerts dominance over marginal languages in West Bengal. Poverty and lack of employment. Migration due to poverty leads to language and culture loss. That means it is very clear here. So, poverty forces a person to learn a language so as to get better employment opportunities. So, automatically you start using that language more. This is necessity. Necessity to learn a language just to survive. Lack of recognition. The lack of recognition of smaller languages, because these are not taught in schools. These are not even, you don't have any literary books. You don't even have a newspaper. There is no radio channels which uses these languages. Then what is the need to use it then? And when you are speaking such a language, if the person who is hearing it is not understanding, automatically you will try to switch to a language which that person is comfortable in, or for majority are comfortable in. Importance of language preservation. The death of a language means the loss of culture, identity, knowledge, medicine, literature, and epistemology. That is the bottom line. So in India, one more thing what we have to understand is, if you really see what we study, we think in our mother tongue, but at the same time when we have to give a reply, especially in schools, colleges, as well as in official circles, it is largely in the English language. Whereas if you go to Germany, or if you go to China, or if you go to Japan, you will be flabbergasted to know that people there study maths, science, every subject in their local language. That is Germany, in the case of German in the case of Germany, Japanese in the case of Japan, Chinese in the case of China. So they study it in the local language. That means the language what they are reading in, the language that they are thinking in, and the language that they are speaking in are all one and the same. This actually improves their ability to understand a subject. Getting the point here? Clear with this? So what is the way forward? Where do we draw the line? First thing we need to understand here is decline of language is a reality. Make no mistake about this. As we move towards more and more modernization or cosmopolitanism, we will largely be reducing ourselves to one or two languages. That's a given thing. It is not that only in India we are facing this issue. This issue is there everywhere. This issue is there even in USA. This issue is there even in Europe. You find it everywhere. Native Red Indians, their language, is it being used in USA anymore? No. Spanish is spoken very widely. Correct? Even in Europe, to a certain extent, even in USA also, the Spanish language will work. Is Latin being used? No. That is why you call it a dead language. So as culture keeps moving forward, some languages will exist, some languages will decline. That's how Mother Nature works. What about the controversies then? If this is a reality, then why this controversy? Why is it that so much of emotions are pouring out on the road with regard to language? Well, one major reason is political. To divert the people's attention from the issues to the non-issues. To act as if we are all the protectors of the culture. If we are not there, the culture will simply not exist. Is there any merit in this? What are they trying to propagate in this matter? Well, definitely the controversies will help in basically generating a definite hatred towards one language. And right now, if you see that one language, for all the right or wrong reasons, it is Hindi. There is a definite hatred towards Hindi. But when you travel towards the Maharashtra-Karnataka border, there is a definite clash between Marathi and Kannada. Fiercely trying to protect the language, fiercely trying to thinking that, okay, now if I protect my language, I'm protecting my culture, we are superior. It also comes from a certain sense of superiority complex or a perceived sense of inferiority complex. Both of it can be. As an individual, what can be done then? What should an average individual do? Well, let me just give you one example here just to drive home the point. And that is Baby John, Varun Dhawan. അയ്യോ സാറേ, ഞാൻ അവിടെ ഒന്നും പോയിട്ടില്ല. എൻ്റെ അച്ഛൻ ജോൺ കുരുവിള. Remember the Malayalam dialogue, which was okay when it comes to pronunciation in the movie Baby John? Or Amban Torsi, Nan Maga, from the Malayalam movie Avesham, where Kannada was spoken. Or Jhukega Nahi, Pushpa 2's promotional event being conducted in Bihar. Idea behind all the three movies is the same: to appeal to a wider audience, to appeal to a wider culture, seek their acceptance. Why? Why do they need it? Because that will bring in money. Simple. All three makers understood that simple concept, that you appeal to a wider audience, or if you appeal to a wider culture, you can end up getting more acceptance, plus it will generate enough revenue in the box office. In other words, at an individual level, இன்னொரு மொழி தெரிஞ்சால் இன்னொரு உயிர் புரிஞ்சுக்கலாம். Means if you learn one more language, it is almost as good as you learn another life. You got another lease of life, one more life. एक नया जीवन मिलने के समान. So you live another life. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ವಿಷಯ ಗೊತ್ತು, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ವಿಷಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. There are only few people who understood this, and those few people have made money also. അറിയുന്നവൻ കാശുണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ട്, അറിയാത്തവൻ അവിടെ കിടക്കത്തേ ഉള്ളൂ. അവനെ വിഡ്ഢിയാക്കാൻ ഇതുപോലെ കുറെ രാഷ്ട്രീയക്കാരുമുണ്ട്. Well, point what I wanted to drive was, apart from doing a little bit of show off, which is I know 4 to 5 languages, and that is also the reason which has helped me to take classes in Chennai, in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, and even in Guwahati. More language if you learn at an individual level, your chance of earning is more. Choice is yours, people, whether you want to learn it or not. At the same time, just because I have learned these languages, have I forgot my mother tongue? Absolutely not. So the fear that you will lose out on the mother tongue if you learn a language is unfounded, because that is a choice. If I want to use my mother tongue, I can use it. And if I'm using another language, there are 2 reasons to it. One, to communicate my thought. Number 2, definitely to earn more money. Jai. With that, we come to an end of our discussion, people. Once again, this is my Telegram channel. Any doubts or queries, please post it up over here. What did you feel about the video? Please put it up in the comment section. And any further videos that you want to be taken up once and for all, explaining the nuances of it, please put it up over here. God bless. Take care.